So it's July 3rd, Wednesday, 2025 at 10 a.m. Welcome to some DSR yapping. The first thing we're going to talk about here in DSR is that the Vault Knights. So in the toolbox that will be given to you guys in this Google Doc as well as the Discord, it's all going to be in there. This is also under the resources and ulti strats. Super important to just take a look. Now, here's some key things that are a little bit different from the raidplan versus actual party finder. The numbers has changed, so there is no longer these numbers. They have condensed it into numbers north and letters south, and they're all max melee. So these are really important to talk about that later, but this is one of the duly noted changes in this fight. So main tank usually takes Duffel, off tank takes Gruno. However, there's been conversation that I've been told that sometimes this is opposite. Sometimes whoever is ready to invuln or take the tether is just kind of just discussed. So while you are PFing this fight as tanks, just always duly ask, as that conversation can sometimes not be expected there. But whoever takes a Delpho, get ready to invuln, and then whoever is taking Greno, get ready to take the tether from Greno. So Delpho is the paladin. If you haven't really stepped into the instance, and that's okay. And Greno will be standing on the right here, and he is the warrior. So the first thing at the start of the encounter is that everybody, because Adelpho, the paladin, he leaves in the middle of this fight. So it's very important for us to burst at the paladin. And unless you're Greno's tank, because to keep the aggro. So that's also super important. So chain, trick, all that kind of stuff needs to be on Delphone because he disappears halfway through the fight. And so dot both bosses, healers, and whatnot. The first mechanic is always going to be in, but you're going to eventually have to read empty is in, full is out. This is very extremely important to tanks to make sure that the two bosses are, especially Greno, is in the center of this diamond, just so that players can definitely not be too close, so that the tether can be grabbed by the off tank, and obviously in, right? Super high mitigation there as the raid white goes out and stuff like that. If by any chance that Greno is off-centered, you can just simply use the edge of his hitbox and stuff like that. To make sure that you're always in. You'll just have to manually target Greno, obviously, during it, and just double check your positioning if you feel like he's slightly off. So the first attack is that we just do a soft spread here, just to make sure that you just don't get confused with anybody here. But the first 4 players that are marked, it is random, and you'll just have to react as you get these markers on top of your head. These markers are very similar to the one you see in this raid plan here. So you just fill north, and it's pretty important that. So this is why the markers are a little bit different here. As you can see in this diagram, it's super far out here. But we actually have the markers that we will be using during our raid session very close, tucked in as well. And it's super important for you to be in the middle of the marker as they are tucked in. This provides a little bit more time for melees to just get a GCD off and then head into the marker. But this is it's going to be a lot closer up here. Everyone else has to stack because he does hits a random player that's not marked here, and as you can see there. So healers just get ready to burst heal in between these attacks. So the 4 players that weren't marked will be marked, and then the other 4 players that were previously marked will stack. So pretty simple. And once again, these markers are slightly different from the ones that we will be using. I do believe when Balently made this, which is a fantastic resource still, it has just changed slightly because people have found better uptime and whatnot. The reason why we're telling you to stand directly in the middle of the portals, especially when the markers are tucked in, because if you are, this is a common mistake players make. If you're slightly off, some of these portals are not going to be in the perfect position. So later on in the mechanic, when Adolfo, runs around and dashes through the entire area, as he touches these portals, we just all get damaged down. And as you already know, damage downs are 99%, 3 minutes. It makes the entire fight unresolvable, uncheckable. So that is usually what it is. So after all that, we do some GCDs. Adelpha will reappear on the arena. So I find that a lot of people can't find Adelpha. They're spinning their cameras and they're trying to find Adelpha as best as they can. If you are an audio person, you can actually hear Adelpha land very much like if you've done Uwu and Ooh, like in Ifrit. When he drops down, he does this thud. If you have really good audio in the game, I mean, obviously everyone's different for everybody. You can actually hear him drop on the other side, like by you and whatnot. Another trick that I also recommend is on your mini map, he actually shows up as a red dot. So if you have your mini map locked, you don't even need to look for, the camera. Oh, the red dot's on east. I go west. It's you can see him reappear on the red dot on your mini map. And I just find that's just so much easier than just panning your camera around and trying to look for him, in the midst of it. It just builds a little bit more consistency because you can just be like, oh, he's north, go south. Oh, he's south, go north. Very, very simple. Now, the warrior Gano will do an anti-hip, he'll do a knockback. And this is what kills a lot of parties when they first start. If you get knocked back way too far, or any of these parts of the arena, it's quite like Uwu. That's what I always want to think about it. It's quite like Uwu with the feathers. If you're anywhere near these portals or those feathers that we like to talk about, you'll get licked and you'll just die. It's one shot, kills tanks. It's game over. Sometimes if you get licked. So you can ride the knockback, but I highly recommend you don't for this reason. And I'm just going to pull over here real quick. Heya does like a pretty nice explanation. So after this yapping session that I have here, if you want to just check out Heya's video, he lines out where you should be not backing to and then running to these tick markers, which is super important. This prevents you getting licked by any of the portals, and it allows you to dodge all of the AoEs because it's a little bit of a clusterfuck, if you ask me. So I just like that here he does like an in-depth explanation. Now, obviously, we just don't have quite a lot of time to go through what he's saying, but I urge you to just take a listen because he's got some really great stuff to say. So we will always run in this example, Adelpho landed on east. We always run to the star. So in this example, he runs to this south. Sorry. Sorry. He runs to north here. Watch the follow the arrows. He runs. So if you're watching him, you can kind of see that the entire party runs to that side to not get. And this is a poor example, but we should be standing right about this corner to prevent any licks or any AoEs that happen there. So just standing on the corner tippy toe of that spike marker. If you're east and west too, you can also go to those tippy turner kind of stuff. This is also really important, and I really want to talk about. So whoever is a Duffel, which is the main tank, you can do the dodge with everybody, which is really really important. You can just you anti knockback, run to the corner, but your movement is going to be slightly different. While everybody stays in this little tippy corner, you're gonna watch the AOE's in front of you go off. It doesn't really show very well, but you're gonna watch this AOE go off. As soon as you see the AOE's go off, you can actually run. This is quite a run here. I don't think you get this far, but you can kind of run for these like middle parts of the star here, or like if you're running to the side, you can run to the tip. Again, try not to hit anywhere on the outside. That's where an adult you'll invuln, and adult will finish his run and drop down on your face. You don't want to touch any of the party here because they'll get fired and not back. So that is very reactionary. As soon as you see the AOE's disappear, you're gone. So highly recommend sprint for that if you're not comfortable with the timing of the mechanic, but otherwise it's good. So we reappear and and the main portion of this part is the tanks really make sure that.
Hold on.
What's
You
up?
missed it. Go back a slide.
Oh, sure. What's up?
1 GC after Adelphal falls, there is an interrupt.
Yes. And the interrupt is
You do not interrupt him as soon as he falls. You will miss it. He waits a GCD to fuck with you.
That's so true. Yeah.
And there's going to be 3 of them in the whole fight, or the whole part in part 1.
Yeah, it's usually main tank, physical range, and then main tank. So like a delta tank. I mean, I always preference that if you are Grenou's tank and you kind of see this holiest of howling go off, just like run to a Delpho, hit your interrupt, and then run back, just because like obviously that wipes the party, and you can't make the DPS check. He heals. Adelpho heals both bosses, and then it's just kind of game over from there. So it's really important not to miss those kind of stuff. Thank you. I kind of got a little ahead of myself. I'm looking at time and I'm like yapping a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna try and keep it real consistent there. Yeah, perfect. Slurmp did a fantastic. Definitely do tank 1, then tank 2, range 2, tank 1. Yeah, you want tank 2 off tank and range 2 to fight over the second interrupt in case people drop dead in PlayStation. Yeah, that is. I actually see that a lot. Is sometimes the physical range dies, and so off tank just get ready to interrupt there. So PlayStation positioning the boss is super important. Dead center, and this is where people also die a lot too. They're not tucked in well enough. So obviously the supports will be like north south, and the healers will be only these 2 markers, and the tanks will only be tanks and squares. So these are sets. Everyone else has to the DPS has to kind of adjust. If you get circle, it is kind of a free for all of which circle gets which. But whoever you decide, east and west, make sure you tuck in, and then make sure when you get knocked back, make sure you just run slightly further out to maximize the distance to break the tethers. Because sometimes the tethers don't break, and therefore then you die. Then your partner dies. Absolutely no gap closing. I don't stress this enough how greedy people are when they go in this fight and they just gap close as soon as they get knocked back. Don't do that. Wait a GCD, and then even back up further than you need to the edge to make sure that your chain breaks in front of you, or you get watching that chain debuff.
Unlike the first time he does Faith Unmoving for PlayStation, Grenou will not center himself. So it is very important that the take with Grenou gets him as close to center as you can, because if he is off center and people do not notice, people are going in the wrong direction or they're too close to each other, and that's going to be a wipe. With the damage we have, with the gear that we have, since we're 6.2 or 7.2 going to 7.3, you could take your time getting him to the middle without hitting him. It's not going to cause you to fail the DPS check because of how important centering him is.
Perfect. Thank you. And we do an in and out. And again, when we do in, you're just going to look for Gurno's hitbox. When you do out, which is full, this is random, by the way. You'll just have to be reading. But I would urge you not to greed full when you have to get out. Just because you just get out, do a GCD, leave the boss. Because max melee will kill you. So, just do GCD, leave the boss, do your range melees, and then, yeah. Another raid wide, interrupt, all that good stuff. Now, if we kill the bosses down, you even the two bosses out, we kill them down successfully, you get teleported or sucked into like a home gang into this particularly west side of the arena. Most of NAUR is doing healer melee range, so group 1 left, group 2 right, for this. So group 1 kind of south. You can use it as Sharbart is north kind of deal. So that's also
you reverse that. You reverse that with your mouse. The white mage is H1.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is, for the purpose of this particular, and it's kind of terrible to see in this diagram here, is that group 1 is actually over here on this. So if you're looking at Sharbart, group 1 is here, group 2 is it's terrible. It's terrible to like look at it from at the starting point here on this angle, because it's quite confusing. So they're always going to, so you're gonna get cleaved and the party just kind of stays out of the way. As soon as you get hit, though, you see that players will go east and to drop their sky debuff, sky blind, and then it'll be the melee's turn. Not really sure why the black mage is there, but for the purpose of this, these are the melees doing this same thing, but this time they're not going to go east like the healers. They're going to go west. There. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's because they're double caster. That's why.
Oh, but there was a dragoon and there was a ninja, and then there's
you
a.
You cannot change class mid-instance. So like,
yeah, I just like want to point that out. That's like kind of weird that they accidentally.
That was also a bard into a dancer.
Yes. Anyways, the point is, this is melees. They are going to go west to drop their thing. Obviously not east, because if you go east, you will die to the healer's puddle. And then these are ranges. So you're always this is always going to be very static movements. You're never ever going to deviate. Later on, you're never going to deviate from this. So then physical range. And you want 20% for his Sherbert's health. And obviously to Meta, if you should be bursting here, and if that will make sure that you'll enter the next phase to Thornton.
For the tank movement there at the end in the PFs that I've done, tanks do not have to do that final west placement. I find it easier and potentially even safer where I stack with my co-tank at the far edge, where like we take our cleaves, we just stay there. We drop our puddles right there. There's no other puddles going out. Everybody else is moving out. You don't need to go push off to the west. You can stay like far away from the party, drop it out there, and then move. I see that happen all the time in PF. I think it's easier. There's less movement, and I think it's safer.
Okay. I feel like I'm gonna go a little bit over time, so I do apologize. We'll save the questions so just keep them stocked up in your head wherever you written down. We're gonna talk about strength, and I'm not really gonna talk about the mercy concealed. Everyone knows that at the end of that they have to dodge it. You can use the sword or the cast bar to dodge it. Oh, perfect. Slurmp has offered to offer any questions for phase one, real quick. So with your tank mitigations, you just really need to know. Sometimes you healers, sometimes tanks are invulning here, sometimes tanks are not, depending on the tank comp to maximize their invuln. So just this 3-hit tank buster might be a passable kitchen sink, might be an invuln, depending on what it is. So let's enter one of the biggest of the trios, strength, though, really quick. So a lot of people, you're gonna see knights drop down, and they're going to cover the entire color. So in this, obviously, when you're doing this, group 1 will always go to number markers. As you can see that there's numbers here. And then group 2 will go to letter markers because we're going to be resolving a spread. The biggest thing I also try to do when I first started doing this is because I had a hard time reading it. I'm not gonna even lie. When I was progging this, I actually just resolved 2 colors. I looked at I was H2, so I looked at purple and blue, and to see if that is, and then it must be yellow or red. So I looked at purple and blue. Oh, there, it's like not safe, and then I will just slowly run towards red and green, or it's green, there's no green, red and yellow, pardon me. And then I'll be like, okay, then I have a little bit of time to resolve. There are some people out there that are super duper quick because I've gotten to the point where I'm there. I can see all 4 of them, but visually, when I first was doing this, I definitely just eliminated 2 colors, and then kind of deviated towards. Backing up also is really good. As Sudan Thornton disappears, you back up, and you can kind of see the whole night because they jump on the outside of the arena, so it can be a little bit tricky there. So when you are doing this, these positions are super super important. So in this example, purple was safe because of the dashes, very nicely there. Melees in range want to make sure that they are through 4.5 ticks away from the fidget spinner, is what we usually call them in top and in this fight. So that being said, you're just like about 4.5 away from it. The healer, the fidget spinner in the middle. Tanks, this spot is really particular here, and I'm just gonna pull the Google Doc here real quick. 1 second here. Tanks. So this is my like go-to spot here. The tank spots are pretty positioned. So I've been told. I mean, I done tanking a few times, and I just kind of followed this. But Ida can probably give an in-depth explanation on the tank spots here, so you don't get clipped by the cleaves coming from the knights.
You're not streaming the Google Doc yet.
I'm not. Oh,
you gotta pull that tab over to this window.
I did. I did. That's funny. Oh, it's because I'm streaming. Oh, because I'm not stream. I thought I was streaming this screen. Whoopsies. There you go. Right? Perfect. Right? Let's just double check the stream.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, it's there now.
This is like my yapping. Oh, sorry.
So you're gonna be going to true cardinals and true intercards to handle it because they line up. That's how the knights will line up. However, as you can see, there are these blue prongs in the actual DSR arena. They are outlined in gold, but I took those pictures in Thornton EX, so they're not outlined. But from at the very tip, right, they slant. You have the top of that slant and the bottom of that slant. They're a little bit thicker in DSR. If you can imagine a line that connects all of them in a circle around the arena, you as a tank, and anybody else can go here too if time allows. If you stand in that line between the top and bottom of that slant, the earthquake that happens right in front of you, you will dodge every time. That is a perfectly safe spot. Even the one that gets really close, you will dodge it if you stand on the tip or within the tip of that prong. So you can sit there and wait. If you struggle counting earthquakes on like when I can move, when I shouldn't, you can wait for the earthquake right in front of you to go off in that safe spot and move right in. Every time.
I think when we were doing this builds consistency for the tanks too. Obviously, there's going to be a middle, near, far types of dodges. That also will help too. Okay, I just want to move my thing back because I don't really want to. You'll see this later, but anyways, thank you, Ida. So we do that spread there. Now, this is what trips people a lot. So, these middle far dodges. There's ones that the tanks have to collapse right. Each movement will be different based off of where you are and obviously what role. Some people use a lot of movement abilities, like Sakuchi, Reaper does that dive. There's a lot of things that people do to just kind of resolve it as well. But there's going to be always 3 permutations to resolve those dodges too. Yes, I 100% agree with Slurmp. Tenzin does a really good job of talking about that as well. But Tenzin's from EU, so light party spreads are going to be slightly different from us. But that's okay if you just need a little bit more visual cue and aid. So these dodges are going to always be in 3 different permutations, and each group will have to resolve them differently. Middle, far, and close. So I'm not going to touch too much about this. This is something that is very personal on how you want to resolve it. Some people will use sprints, some people use movements, some people, have their little bit tricks. My trick is I always hit sprint here because I find it easier to dodge the other bits of strength, but that's just me. I know that a lot of people are like, you don't need sprints, but it is what it is at the end of the day. I like sprint there because I'm a scholar and I use expedience elsewhere because I just cheat in this game.
That blue prong stuff tech I was talking about works for tanks every time, but depending on the spawning location of that earthquake warrior, it is not always possible for the party to make it there before the earthquake happens. So check to see if you can even make it. If you can, that's great. It's easier. If you can't, then you need to sit back and wait for that one to go off. Then you still move in.
Yes. Do not follow, like Storm said, you do not follow people. Do not sheep. You will die. You'll need to learn how to do it yourself. You need to know the snapshots. You need to know the timings. You need to get ready for the rolling AoE. 100. A++++. I usually, when I'm in the instance, I had some people that were really struggling with these dodges. And so I would go through and explain how to do each of the dodges. But for the purpose of this lecture, I probably won't do that. But anyways, so this is where, now that we've done the cleave dodging and we successfully dodged the AoE, this is where a lot of people just get lost in the sauce, for lack of a better word. All the mechanics is identifying where Thornton will be, and you can actually identify very, very early on where Thornton can be, and this is where is really nice. So I drew a little diagram for us here. So even as Thornton is in the middle and he's stabbing the ground for Ascalon's might, you actually know where he's going to teleport or reappear on the arena, because this is super important to visualize where north is. The 2 knights that drop down, they will always favor a certain side of the arena. So as you can see here, the knight dropped down at 3 and alpha here. That means that Delta will be safe. You will know that just based off these 2 knights. Very, very, very important. So as you are progging this, right, the main thing is whether you're blueberry or not, the tanks will resolve their mechanic with their favorite uh, knights that they will prioritize getting the tether to. But it's super super nice and easy. If you know where Thornton is, you can even after before you get your blueberry or deformation, you can even dodge slightly towards it. I know that when I first started, I actually after went in between the two knights and faced north to see Thornton drop down. Because if you go in between them, you will always know that and like look forward, you can find that that's new north, that's new south, and everything is based off of that. Tethers will always lock on to a non-deformation player or a non-blueberry player, and whatnot. This is also super important to talk about that gets a lot of people killed for this, is that as you can see in this is where Thornton is. The 3 DPS are, or whoever doesn't get deformation, I do apologize, are doing a slight spread here. And this is demonstrated beautifully. They are telegraphing on which tower they are going to take before they collapse. It's something that you will have to see in terms of consistency in Party Finder, because you can't talk to obviously the people in the chat in a voice chat. Oh, I'm gonna take right. No, there's none of it. So as you can see, that they're telegraphing that they're going to take these towers. Super, super, super important to just constantly just get into the habit of doing it once you've discovered, once you're there. And yes, these positions first come first serve. I used to make a joke that I was the fastest because I was always first tier here because I knew the trick to get to Thornton really, really fast. And everyone would fight for a middle spot because anyways, it was just like a funny thing that our static did. But that being said, now that they're gotten way better at it, they always beat me too because I have to place mitigations and fairies and shit like that. So, but they can kind of, you can kind of know where Thornton's is and then just beeline to get your spots. It is first come first serve. Now, I just really, really want to talk about these blueberries. If you are late in getting a if you are late to knowing where north is, and the tethers have already spawned, this is also really important, and it talks about it here. You gotta go around the two knights, the two paladins in the middle, because you don't. Again, these tethers will lock on to the non-blueberry players, right? Which the tanks will be intercepting and grabbing the tanks' tethers. If you, as a blueberry, cut in front of these tanks, the wipe is on you. there's no, so you have plenty of time to go around, stay in the middle and go around the tanks to get to your spots if you are late. So I see people dodge this really early and claim their spots. Once again, these blueberry spots, because it's completely random, is for first come first serve. But in the event that you are slightly late, just move around the night. This is also important to also note that I just really, really want to talk about that kills a lot of tanks in this. If you are an east-west blueberry, do not stand at the middle of the fidget spinner. If you stand in the middle of the fidget, guess what? You have a high chance of killing your tank that's trying to cross cleave into the arena. So this is how big they are, right? And if you stand in the middle of the fidget spinner, you will clip this tank. And I see this so many times. So I usually say 2 notches. Even one notch actually solves it, but just be safe, 2 notches to avoid hitting the tanks. This is something that I just see a lot of people wipe too, and I just want to emphasize that super quick, that is something that as we are going through this, if you're east-west and you just a tank dies to this, it is like almost 99% they got clipped by deformation, like regardless of what happens. So
that moving around the knight to not get the tether, just gonna echo that, is non-negotiable. If tanks have prepared and they're running for their tether and you cut through it and take it, they will not take it back.
There's not enough time.
The time we have to grab our tether and run leaves maybe 1 second of late error. So if that tether is not how we expect it to go, it's over. We don't get it in time. So you move around. That's it. If you take it, it's over.
I'm not going to go through taking towers. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm just going to move quickly along to Sanctity, which is this is the Dark Knight. Sanctity, Dark Knight jumps. There is the second part of the trio. Super big mechanic. All these mechanics, this is fast. If you've never done DSR, these are very, very fast mechanics. I know we're going an in-depth explanation, but the entire phase is only 2 minutes. You will see literally 50 mechanics within these 2 minutes. So that's how fast it is. So it's important to like kind of remember these key points, and then you'll get faster and faster. But here we are. We're at Sanctity. This is where it's super important to stay soft. The strat that we will be using is group 2 always away from, group 2 closest to the Dark Knight, and group 1 always away, like the swords. However, the game, Mr. Ozma likes to throw in a little bit of variation, right? There will be a random 2 players that will get picked for the swords, which is dictating where the knights jump. Now, here is the caveat or trick. These, you have to try and adjust between these players who get the sword, because we want to create a 4-man stack on each side. Now, it is completely survivable if you're shield healer or you're people who know how to mitt. You can survive a 5-3 stack. 100%, I've done it all the time. But to kind of prevent a 6-2 stack, which is a high possibility that can still happen, you want to adjust. So make sure that you are, I sometimes say focus target at the very beginning of the phase. Focus target your, stand beside it. Don't do a soft spread. Stand with your buddy, So in case you guys get picked, you know that, I'm group 2, so I'm usually right by the knight. But my partner got the 2 sword, so I have to go away from the knights. So that's just something that you'll have to be ready to flex, and whatnot. Just is always nice that they have done it. So while you're doing this mechanic, while you are watching where the knights, so this is something that I think a lot of people, it's a lot of visual clutter, and I won't lie, when I first did this, it was a lot. So I usually break down this mechanic quite easily, is identifying where the knights drop. So the knights drop in the middle, but then the Dark Knight drops on the edges, on the outside of the arena. First, determine where the Dark Knight lands. This is something that I found really crucial to reading the mechanic really, really fast. The Dark Knight will never, ever, ever, ever spawn on red or blue markers. It will never spawn. It will always spawn on purple or yellow markers, so intercards, right? So once you identify your placement, you can look at your partner, because your partner will either have a sword or don't, or you both don't, and you go to your default spots. Super easy. As you are running to your spots, to your groups or whatever, you can look. Yes, there's a little trick where the paladins face this way, the paladins face that way. It's counterclockwise, right? I actually don't look at both paladins. I look at the one paladin. And if the one paladin is facing left, I just go left from the color marker. So if the Dark Knight spawned on yellow, I go left of yellow. About 3 ticks from the fidget spinner. You can memorize it. I know that some people sit on 1 and they specifically look at the Black Knight, and depending on where the Black Knight is facing, they will know clock and counterclockwise. Now, as somebody who might be a little bit directionally challenged, even when I drive, that doesn't really work for me. So I tend, because I also want to stand by my partner in case I have to adjust, because sometimes my healer partner goes, I have been in party finders where my healer partner goes all the way to like 4, and I'm just like, why are you over there? But it doesn't matter at this point. No, no, you're good. You're good, Aki. I actually just did a party finder yesterday, and the healer was like so far away, and I was just like, "Why are you so far away?" And then I was one. I had to adjust, so I was like huffing it all the way to across the arena. Um, but I just look at one of the knights that's closest to where I'm running to, and they will be facing um a direction. That direction is where you need to go. So this is also important that you just go 3 ticks from the spots. Now, gazes. This is something that a lot of people get caught on. So Heya does like a fantastic explanation. So just please check out his video too. My priority of dodging gazes is outside safe, right? Then just keep looking out. You know what I mean? But if it's not safe, look left, look right. Oh, they're not safe. There's a good possibility, and sometimes a permutation, where we call it a turnaround moment. You know, you look left, right. Oh, too late to turn around, and you can dodge some of these cases. So that's just something that you do have to kind of be paying attention to. If in front of not safe, be ready to quickly adjust left and right there. Now, as these sanctity jumps happen, it's super, super important to not be paying attention to when the Dark Knight hits you. You need to be looking at the AoEs on the ground. And obviously, if you have these markers, be on the edge, very, very edge. I've seen people like kind of creep up and then just die because they just took way too much damage, because those Dark Knights are procs damage. As soon as those AoEs in front of you, go off, you can move into, again, the 3 fidget spinner states will always be. So this is also something that sometimes the gazes screw people over. You will never cross over where the specific marker where people are going to. For example, if the Dark Knight spawns on yellow, don't cross over yellow. Yellow is bad. Don't cross over yellow. So in the orientation, because sometimes people get disorientated because they have to dodge gazes. Oh shit, where do I go? Where do I go? Don't cross over the same intercard where the Dark Knight spawns. It's a trick that usually helps those kind of mistakes be not prevented. So they'll just kind of continue on, clock or counterclockwise or whatever. And then I think specifically why these markers are on the edge to sort of prevent players to be like, hey, don't cross purple. Don't cross back over to purple. Don't cross back over to yellow. There. So, and then you're going 3 ticks from the fidget spinner. This is terrible. I'm so sorry. I can't really show you 3 ticks, but you'll get a general feel of it. And again, moving when the AoEs get launched is the most important part of that mechanic. Sorry, Titus. I know my dog is whining. After that, you can move into middle. So, we're going to hop right back in to the final of the trios, Sanctity. Okay? These spots are your setting spots. So after you come in, you done Dark Knight's jump successfully. Yay! We're almost done phase 2. We have one last wall, and it is described to a lot of new players very, very difficult. It's like the wall of PF2 is whether you get this phase correctly as well. So these starting spots are always going to be consistent. M1, H2, H2, M2. Like, these are always going to be consistent in the starting spot. Now, these are, at the very beginning, these are meteor players. These markers will show up on specific role groups. So it's either 2 supports, 2 DPS, all that kind of stuff. You can look at the party list to look for these 2 players, because it's important. Even if you don't have a meteor, you need to know who is meteors, because that determines all the towers you're going to get, no matter what. And it determines like if you are meet a group, if you are not. So it's pretty important to just at the very start of this mechanic, you need to know. We get good at identifying these debuffs. So in this example, supports are marked, and so that means supports are meteor group. We always handle our medians north and south. Yes, there are 16 permutations. Yes, there are sometimes we make this curse. Yes, we're not doing east and west because we're in North American. All I just want to say is if you get these meteor debuffs, you are going north or south. Now, there's been times where some healers or some melees both get the meteor marker. The idea is to rotate clockwise so that, and it's kind of always been a rotate clockwise meteor rule, is that if the both healers get the meteors, obviously healer 1 will go north, healer 2 will go south. And that's a common thing that you'll see, especially for melees too. There's just that if you get these east-west spots, you'll just rotate. Obviously, in this example here, tank 2 gets a meteor, healer 2 gets a meteor, tank 2 just stays at 1. Tank 2 will just have to rotate to north. So this is a pretty good example here. So the unmarked players should plant to their default. This is super important because later on the boss will target people with ice, and we need to be buddy stacked. So if, for example, healer 2 goes north, the tank must adjust for the buddy ice. So he must go where the healer was coming from to adjust to stack with the buddy ice, where the DPS don't fucking move because they're not the meteor group, right? So when you are placing ice, this is super important here. Notice how they are, well, this is a bad example, but this guy is probably the best example here. Notice that they're not on the marker, like dead on the marker when placing ice with your buddy stack. This is something that kills a lot of groups when you're doing Sanctity, is that if you place your ice in this golden line, you will cover up a tower. The inner towers, I mean. So it's kind of important for you to kind of get off of the markers just to place this. We will talk about curse. I know that you guys are yapping in chat about curse. I will go through the nuances of curse here. I'm just going to explain the first part of that. So just make sure that when you are dropping your ice, you just drop it off the marker, or for lack of a better word, if you're using, just a little bit on the outside, so you never cover up the inner parts of the tower. Now, tower identification. Media group always goes out. No matter what. There's always going to be a tower that's going to be out. That's the meteor group. So if supports are meteors, then all supports should be taking an outside tower. This is non-negotiable. Now, here's the tricky part sometimes, is that if there's 2 towers on the outside, okay, always the priority meteor group will take the cardinal. Boom. Wonderful. That's awesome. So this tank on east, there's 2 towers that are happening on east. The tank will take the cardinal one because he is the priority group. Now, if it was DPS priority group, it would be the melee that would take this, or whatever. Whoever DPS was here. Now, I have seen where there is a tower here in this corner, and there's no cardinal tower in the middle, but there's a tower over here. So I know that this doesn't quite explain it very well in this raid plan here, but if we always remember the rule that meteors take clockwise, like meteors go clockwise, then the meteor priority type group will go clockwise, facing outside. Very important. You want to always look at the purple, between the purple and yellow markers as well when identifying the 2 towers, right, in the middle as well. Because I know some people have really big panoramic TVs and they sometimes mistaken this tower as part of their count. Don't do that. So just make sure that you are only just doing the 2 towers that are sitting in between the 2 intercards. But anyways, so then the off non-support role will take the people also in Party Finder telegraph where they want to go. Before they do the ice deck, they kind of like, hey, because like I'm gonna shimmy here, and then they collapse together for this is the tower I'm going to take, and then they collapse right before ice drops. This is something that a lot of time. So this is something that people do often to prevent curse pattern. Yes, there's a rule that meteors group goes clockwise, yada 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 yada. But in the event that sometimes based on the towers that spawn north and south, you can make it non, you know, for example, you can make it non-cursed. I do see this often with very confident players that just kind of preposition because they want to prevent a non-meteor group. However, that does run into some complications if they obviously you can't talk to the person south to know that they're adjusting anyways as well.
If you are not confident in checking both the north and south quadrant in a timely manner, it is perfectly okay to follow the regular prio. And if there's a curse, soft curse, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's better to do that and deal with the curse than
Yes.
attempt to adjust and wipe.
Yes, yes. But I think I just have been into a lot of DSR party finder groups where they get very confident, and then you'll see these things happen, which is why a lot of people wipe to it. So, anyways, the non-meter players going to go real quick. If you don't have two towers on the outside, you're going to go soak in the middle towers. And the analogy I like to use is it's a toilet bowl. Where in America, okay, the toilet flushes clockwise. So you're going to take the tower. You're going to go around the inside of the toilet bowl. You're going to take the tower that's on, clockwise from that. So the range DPS are going to go clockwise. That's their first tower. The melees technically go clockwise, and boom, that's the first tower. So you can kind of tell when you're running in the middle who is going to take tower. It is not a left, right. Just for consistency's sake, it's always a clockwise preference first. Toilet bowl, my toilet bowl rule. You're gonna walk out of this lecture and you're gonna be like, oh my god, Elise. The only thing I remember is the toilet bowl rule, and that's great. So, anyways, they're gonna soak towers now. Before I talk about curse, I'm gonna just talk about the outside really quick. Supports, if you are the priority tube, you're always going to take the cardinal tower for the second sec. Non-negotiable, not a conversation. Always, if you are the priority meteor group, you are always going to take cardinal. Okay? If you are the non-priority meteor group, you are always going to go to intercard. So no matter where you are set up here, in the middle, whatever fucking tower you took in the middle, you are going to go back to if you are the priority group, the unmarked group, you are going to go back to the original intercard. This is super important to stress because I've seen people, like this M1 tower here in this example was down here, right? Don't stay down here. If you came from 3, right, because you had to adjust or whatever, you will always go clockwise. Our key term for meteors is you're going clockwise to the next intercard because you're not the priority. So M1 is going to get knocked back into 4. This is very important, and the law sees this a lot of times. Is this mistake happening a lot? And so I just want to let you know to prevent that. So no matter what position you end up as the non-meteor player, you should always go back to your original intercard spot because that's where you're responsible for. Okay, so it's going to be very static light. So if I am H2, and I'm a non-group, I'm always going to go to Delta all the time. So you're always going to go to a specific static spot when you're a non-meteor group for the second set of towers. Does that make sense? Super important to know that because I just see a lot of people not realizing that and they go back. Okay, now cursed and meteors players. Okay, so when you are starting off your meteors, you're starting off north and south, everyone else should be doing their job, right? If it's normal, fantastic. Whole kick W and you're good to go as soon as the towers disappear. Wonderful. Easy. It's like the easiest mechanic. You drop hit your anti, not back on the 4th meteor that drops, or you can look at Faith Unmoving. In the enemy list, Sherbird will come down, or not, is it Sherbird? Shit. Can't remember who cast it. You'll see a cast bar called Faith Unmoving. Anti-knockback, and you just keep on running. Keck W, all wins. We love this permutation. It's so easy. Don't worry about it. You just run along the outside, getting your tower, north-south. Now, Cursed is something that I'm going to take 5 minutes to talk about real quick. So curse is, how do I identify curse? Well, people keep saying curse. I don't know what that fucking means. The main majority of identifying curse is that these towers, north-south, are not completely north-south. They're not completely perfect, aligned.
Being completely opposite of each other.
Yes, completely opposite. So if you don't have that means we call it curse. That means that, hey guys, this is curse. You're going to have to treat your running movement differently. So the starting position for curse here, I do have a video that I will post in here as well. And she is so wonderful to explain some of the curse. Where the fuck is my video? Anyways. I should have pulled this out. I didn't pull this out. Boom. Okay. Here it is. So I'll link this video and we'll just talk briefly about this. Vesper, I'm a huge fan of hers. So this curse is cursed here. This is super important so as you can see, the tower is not north and south. And then the behind tower, I can't really show it here in this iteration. Behind tower is not in favorable. The starting position for curse is super important too, because you want to give the person that's doing the curse pattern the maximum amount of room possible. And I cannot stress this enough to resolve curse. And do try to play as if you're going to try and resolve curse. It's worth it every single time. It's a huge confidence boost, but anyways, if you are the player doing curse, you want to stand far back of the tower as possible. So, and far inside. So as you can see, this tower is spawning here. If I want to resolve curse, and I'm doing curse because I know the tower is really close to me, I want to stand as far back, but inside the tower, right, to resolve curse. As well. And so this is super important that the other player needs to stand super forward. It is a tag team. You're going to get the most benefit of doing curse if the other player is also paying attention to give you the maximum amount of room. So the other player is going to stand forward to make sure that you have enough space to drop your meteors down. So when I say far back, once again, as close to the inside cardinal of north or south, and it could be, curse north, curse south, semi-curse, soft curse is a term that we like to use because it's a soft curse, meaning you just have a little bit more room to resolve than curse. Okay, but that's not always the case because, again, existing permutations, you just have to resolve it. And yes, this is a North American. We always do north or south meteors as well. For cursed, you can macro game it. Adalia will preach on macro gaming. I fucking hate macro gaming. I'm not even gonna lie. I can't do it because if you are planning to, I have the macro, and if you are planning to practice with this macro, do know that, hit your anti-knockback in between. Like if you're running around and you are waiting for a DSR party and you want to just practice the movements, you play with this macro, get ready to use anti-knockback. You want to, you must spam press it without stopping until the final meteor has fallen in order for the macro to work. So I'll give that macro to you. Otherwise, you are zigzagging. And I'm a controller player. You can shoot me for doing that. Yes, I play Astro on controller and I play Scholar on controller. I'm a controller player. I don't use the macro at all. I zigzag. And she does a perfect, beautiful example of in this video talking about the zigzag, which I won't go through because we're a little bit out of time right now. I really want to end this on a strong note. My biggest portion trick to zigzagging is the first once you just run like the tower is disappearing like normal, but instead of running, you know, completely in line with the arena, you're going to your first run is going to be right away as soon as the towers spawn, and you're going to hit the wall. As soon as you hit the wall, you can kind of understand the tempo of the meteors. Once you hit the wall, the first boom, and then you change your direction, I guess, and zigzag to the other in the in-betweens, and then pause, boom, then go. And then this is, for me, I use sound cues to do zigzag. I'm a very sound person. Not artistic person, but very sound person. So I use that tempo to hit the wall, wait for the sound, boom. Hit the Venn diagram of the ice and fire, wait for the sound, boom. And then it will, for me, it just works every single time. But you do have to pause. So, but the first one you can't pause. The first one you do have to run all the way to the edge until you hear the sound. Then you can start your zigzag pauses. Back to the intercard, run out, back to the intercard. Remember, for meteor players, absolutely no sprints. If you sprint, we all cry. Because I don't know how people do it if they hit sprints. You're just doomed. Whether it's normal or cursed, you're just doomed. I have markers also. If you're trying to actively try and do this in PF, I have markers for phase 1 and phase 2. I will put this lesson plan in the Google Doc, and I will put this Google Doc for your pleasure of viewing in the raid thread. But now, sorry, I went a little bit over time, 2 minutes. And, yeah, I do think, yeah, if you are open to questions, I'm going to probably end the recording here. So, yeah.